Welcome back to the Berg Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. With me today is Dan.
Hey, everybody.
And our guest today is Katrina.
Hello, everyone.
Katrina Keating Ernst, the Executive Director of Camino Farms. Katrina, can you just give us kind of like the intro, the 30 seconds? Who is Katrina?
Sure. Yes. So I am the seventh of 10 kids of the Keating family. And my parents started this Camino Farms venture about 4 years ago. And we are a mission-driven organization that is hoping to provide a retreat space for groups needing some respite and community building and just time away from all the noise. And then we are also producing 20,000 pounds of beef, 20,000 pounds of chicken, and 150,000 eggs per year to give to food to organizations serving food impoverished areas.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I didn't know much about the Camino Farms or Camp Camino prior to us being involved a little bit in the project that's happening there. So I did a little bit of research. I was trying to figure out what is this project that we're doing in Bartow, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I was kind of curious, like, Are you originally from the Berks County area? What about Berks County made this the right fit?
No, really. So the story goes that my mom, so as one of 10, our immediate family has now grown to 40 people. So 10 kids, 8 spouses, 20 grandkids as of yesterday. So we're constantly growing. My other sister's pregnant, and my mom really has felt for like the last 10 years that it's been so hard to have deep, meaningful conversation as a family and really gather all together. Yeah. There's few gathering spaces. We all live in the Main Line area and are from there originally, and there's really few places where we can all gather in one space. And so she happened, a mutual connection, owned this property out in Bartow, and they were looking to sell it. Okay. And at that time, she went to my dad and was like, Pierce, I really think this could potentially be the answer to our prayers. The property had one main house with about 4 bedrooms and then 3 dilapidated barns. And she thought we could turn some of these barns into gathering spaces and a guest house. And this could really be an opportunity and a retreat space for our family to get away and really have dedicated time away from, we used to go down the shore, but it really was just all of our friends down the shore. My dad was always saying he played the bouncer because a lot of drinking and arrests down there. No. So that was the story. And then my dad went up and saw it, and it happened to be surrounded by 200 acres of beautiful farmland and something that's always been on his heart. He is a commercial construction builder, has been, as he steps away from that main business, to do something more philanthropic. And so the idea of Camino Farms was born, and that was about 4 years ago. And we just really are to the point of being we plan to open in May. So excellent. It's been a long journey actually getting all the construction approvals and everything, but that's how we found our way to Bartow. To be honest, I would have not been able to point it out on a map prior, but we've really loved learning and getting to know the community and are so grateful for their openness to the project. Yeah,
that's excellent. And so, obviously, big family. Mm-hmm. So meeting spaces are probably hard to come by. I've been to a few of our own family gatherings. So my personal family isn't that big, but my wife's family is enormous.
Okay.
And so anytime we try to do this, it's difficult, right? Yeah. It's hard to find somewhere you can put 40, 50, 60, 70 people in the same place. And then if you can find that place, how do you do anything when you're there, right? Yeah. So how did it transpire that from family gathering place to sort of like the Camp Camino idea?
Sure. So for we grew up Irish Catholic, as you can tell from the numbers. So really important to us has always been our faith and the aspect of giving back and really understanding our blessings and being able to share those with others. And so we've been involved with a lot of different groups and nonprofits that have done work in impoverished areas in Philadelphia, parts of Norristown, really throughout the 5-county region. And now we really have to include the Berks County region in that as well. So we'll say 6. And from that, it was kind of, I had worked in Kensington actually for 2 years and really started to realize the noise of your everyday. You're constantly in flight or fight mode when you're in some of these really crisis areas. And the L would go by every 10 minutes and I never had just a moment of peace. And I thought, I am so lucky. I get to go back to my apartment in Center City and can get away from all of this. But most of the people that live there, again, that's their everyday. And so how could we provide this place where you can actually go and see the stars? You're away from pollution. Just even to be able to see animals. A lot of some of the kids that I was working with never had these opportunities. So that was, it really was an evolution. We kept joking that we thought the construction approvals would actually be the easiest things to come by because that's my dad's business. He was like, I know how to do this. Well, not the case. It has taken some time to get all of those, but in that time, it's really evolved to being this place for eclectic groups from, we say marginalized populations, but marginalized for any reason, whether it's, from under-resourced communities. The adults with intellectual disabilities is a big piece of, a passion area for us, as my youngest brother, Luke, has Down syndrome. So that was another big component of all of this. What's he going to do kind of once he's out of the education system? Because we had heard for years, it's great when until they're 19, and then there's really nothing for them to do once they're out of the public school system. So, that was really, it was a bunch of different, I would say, God winks over the last 4 years to really evolve to this idea of camp, or I keep it saying almost a sanctuary at Camino Farms for any groups. It doesn't have to be a 5-day experience. It doesn't have to be the traditional camping experience, but really give groups that might not otherwise have this opportunity the ability to experience this. It's beautiful. And so just calm when you're out there. You really do feel like I can go up from it's an hour away from where I live, and I'm like, oh, my nervous system relaxes.
Yeah, there's so much that she covered. And so I was at one of the events that they held early on, and had done enough homework from a Berg standpoint, not just the CRD, the construction, all that stuff, but we've always said we like to do projects that matter. Something that impacts the community. We could, and of no consequence. We build lots of things that are just things. But when we can, we really want to work in places that matter, that are different, that help the community or provide a place for people to go or visit or see. And when I went, one of the things that caught my attention, honestly, was the diversity of the marginalized people they were trying to serve. And so many of them with individual ties. And there was some common themes there, but it struck on so many things. And like when Katrina talked about the reality of the situation that inner city people and youth specifically live in and what they experience, I know that's something with my brother, with Mike working in the inner city still and continuing to live in the city, and there's one particular kid, Ra, that was a neighbor of his, that he had never seen more grass than there was in Point Breeze in a park that was a soccer field. That was it. He had a bus pass, to get around the city. He could have easily gone to Fairmount Park, but their world gets constricted by circumstance. And when you think about what they don't see, it's almost unbelievable that you could become an adult and have never seen an open pasture or a cow or a horse. And so that was interesting to me. But I think the thing that was most striking was when I heard the idea of the food. And I was like, okay, it is interesting and impactful to give people somewhere that they can go. But there's something different about their mission to try and provide food that really just immediately was like, wow, that's a next level impactful. Because when you talk about you don't even have to go to impoverished or marginalized areas. And when you realize the food that in this country we allow, encourage, and facilitate through the cost of things that people think is normal that you eat, you realize how much is not available to each other. One time I went with, I think it was Brad definitely went, but I feel like Erin may have set it up with one of her friends, and maybe Brad and I have a mutual friend. He went to college with the Canes, are now married, and I know them from adulthood, from them having kids with our kids. And we went in Norristown to a food bank, and kids and us all packed these bags for kids. And they do an amazing job. At the same time, there was not a single thing in that bag that Erin would have let the girls eat. Like, there was nothing. They weren't eating any of that. And, and Erin could look at it and say, like, this has preservatives. This has added sugar. This is a class 1 carcinogen. Like, what I mean? It was all going to be bad. And it's really hard to say that to people who are trying to do such good work, and it is good work.
Right.
Yes.
But when they said that they were actually trying to have like grazed beef and free-range chicken and eggs that they were going to provide to food banks, they don't even have, that's not even a thing.
No, that's really, so we really got lucky in terms of that even transpiring. That was never part of the original plan when my parents had bought this property. But because it took so long to get all these construction approvals, my dad had happened to read in the paper about a place called Carversville Farm. Amazing. It's out in Bucks County. And this is what they do. They give to probably 15 different, and they really focus on soup kitchens actually, but giving that high quality protein to those locations. And he read about it and he was like, wait, we could do this. We're only using X amount of the acres, and the rest we could really figure this out. So it's been amazing. We have Baylor, our farm manager. We just happened to get connected with him, and he's really turned this into making it a reality, because I can't tell the difference between.
Farmers.
Yeah, exactly. We're not farmers. We just learned the difference between broilers and layering chickens, or there was so much we just learned.
I don't even know what you're talking about. So
no, okay, it makes me feel better.
I know what you're talking about, but only because of someone else.
Yes. So, that's been a really, and it's honestly, I think we didn't know how much people were really going to be excited about that part of our mission. And that's what we're really starting to be like, wow, this could have so much more of an impact. And our hope is actually, how can we start to make some synergies between the groups coming up for the Camper Retreat Center and what's going on in terms of serving different locations with this food. So is there opportunities for agriculture and harvest, and while they're up there? We're really excited about what could come with the food aspect.
Yeah. And I mean, another thing that was really interesting to me, honestly, was Pierce himself, your dad.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have someone who's run a big construction company. This is it's a big construction company born in the city. You know what I mean? So it can be the best place or the worst place. Whether you're union or open shop, you can make that call. Yeah. But one of the hardest places to work, one of the hardest areas to work with people and the environment, the conditions, all those things, and who he has to deal with every day for his entire career. And to see him step back and say, I'm going to do this other thing that's completely philanthropic. It happens all the time in terms of when we look at some of the wealthiest people and how they choose when it's time to invest and spend their time and money. And you always say the 3 gifts, and it's the 3 treasures: your time,
your time, your talent, money, and your treasure.
Time, you're right. So, but it was really interesting because to see it firsthand and play out, and how he's going to do this, and we were talking at this meeting, and I'm not going to say the number, but he said how much he invested, and I was just like, this is crazy. He's fronting all of this, and I know that's how a charity works. I'm not ignorant that a charity needs money and it comes from somewhere, right? And Ford does a lot with Good Samaritan. But for someone individually to do it, and I know you could say, well, it's Keating, construction, it's Keating Corporation. You could spin this 100 different ways if you want to make it less impactful. But the reality is that, a man and his wife with means that didn't need to help anybody decided that he was going to help people that are unassociated with him. And then he tied together, standing in that room with so many different groups that helped so many different people. And it was a crazy thing to see as they went through it. You weren't there, but as they went through it. And Brian is that way. So Brian does a lot for his community. He's very community involved, and gives way too much of his time, in my opinion, with no return often, with no compensation
metric,
no metric return, which returns anything to Brian
very
other than
rewarding.
The metric of happiness, I guess.
So it was one of those things I actually wished, I was like, if Brian was here, because he could see this, to see how crazy this is, especially knowing the area, like even, you know, when you take their family, like if you said, oh, they have 10 kids, well, we're like in Lancaster, like, well,
right.
You know, out here, like, yeah, of course they do. Who's going to run this farm? You know what I mean? But
yeah.
So much of it was interesting to me from positionally where it came from and everything else. And it is beautiful out there. I mean, it's a beautiful property. And we think it will be really impactful. And that was one of the things that made me try and reach out to you and say, you know, do you want to talk about it? Because it is something Berg focuses on. You know what I mean? For better or worse, we look for projects where they make a difference. You know what I mean? We're going to look at the next Good Sam project. We looked at Camino. You know, we try and do stuff in, you know, we did the park in Downingtown. We did Longwood. All of those things are places we think can make a difference and also let our people take advantage of what they can do and get something done. And so when that opportunity came up, Ford was pretty adamant that we should go get this job. And we involved ourselves with CRD and said, like, we'll wade through what we think it's going to take to get there. Because we did not think it was going to be easy for you. We thought this is going to be, and we only knew it probably 2 of the 4 years you were doing it. But we were like, this is not going to go quietly here. This is going to be rough.
Yes, and it was definitely tough. So I am amazed that we are at this point, and I am super proud of my parents for sticking with it, because it could have been super easy to just like throw in the towel. Like this just doesn't make sense.
Sure,
we're hitting too many obstacles.
And you still have your barn at that point. You still have your gathering.
Yes, exactly. Like we hit this the early of what we wanted to do. So I really feel very lucky to have them as my parents and models for kind of how to keep a fit. Like, it is really amazing. Of the 10 kids, 9 of us live about like 2 miles from each other. We are all in the immediate area. Of the like 20 grandkids, 13 go to the same school.
Wow.
They're all best friends. So I do, from a modeling perspective, they've really done an amazing job of keeping us together. Whether they wanted us all to be home so frequently, I mean, they're getting stop-bys constantly, but it's been amazing to see that continuation of family, especially now that I just had a daughter 2 months ago. So figuring out the parenting thing is hard. I'm like, wow, this is a lot more complicated than I, saw from the sidelines.
Add some layers for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Need to add a couple more. It'll make it more complicated.
We'll see about
It's interesting to hear people talk about like coming to, and I always say Lancaster County because it's where I live, but like Lancaster and Berks County, from a touristy perspective, right? Like to get away from the congestion, the crowd, the hustle, the bustle at times of the main line, the city, and to be just an hour or so from this experience, but not know it exists. And we've had a lot of the same interactions through some of the things that our family has done. And it's always like you want to not take it for granted living in this environment, right? And walking out the door every day to this thing that people want to come to vacation at. But it's hard. And then you get these experiences like you're suggesting and saying like people just don't get it based on their environment or environmental factors that are limiting or prohibiting them from getting away and disconnecting. So it's really a cool idea, to provide that space.
Yeah. And it's probably the idealist in me, but my hope is I think, it's obvious we're a very divided place right now. And I think at the end of that, I was listening to a podcast a couple days ago, and it was saying how we really don't have the ability anymore to walk in other people's shoes because like our algorithms on phones are serving us content that's just our circumstance. Yeah. The different environments that people live in are so different from one another that it's hard even like whether or not you wanted to have empathy and be in those shoes. It's like, I just have no idea. So our hope too is really to open up some conversation and really see that like, oh yeah, we're all just humans at the end of the day. We all really want the same for ourselves, our families, the ability to thrive and provide. It's probably a lofty goal, but hopefully some of this also breaks down some barriers.
Sure.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a topic, Brian and I talk about all the time. Yeah. That it's just, the reality is we agree on probably 80 to 90% of all things. But if all that algorithm feeds you is the 10 or 20%, that's all you get.
Yep.
Right. And it's it just, like in Camino's specific sense of your initial idea of serving marginalized populations, I can't think, it would be a very low percentage of people that would say like, yeah, that's stupid. I don't care about that. Right? Like they're just not going to say that.
Right.
But the step needs to be taken to facilitate something happening that allows it. And I think there's another irony with where you placed it, that you ended up in this spot that is a distance from Philadelphia, a distance from Norristown. But it's actually also close to Allentown. Yeah. Which is Allentown's and Reading. Like you were, and it's something Brian and I talk about, that I have this odd sense growing up in Jersey that I would go through the city, it would get very crowded. Right. Then I would drive through all the rich people. And then I would get to a farm, and from there on, it was pretty much just farms until I hit like California. Right. In my mind. Like it was just all farms. And then, we go out to like Lancaster and there's a city. Yeah. And then you get to Hershey and there's a city. And it didn't appear that way. And in that sense, like you're taking people west from the city in the group that your dad and your family has operated in, trying to help people who are marginalized. But you're actually running into other cities with marginalized people that you're going to pull in a whole lot of groups that you've never even probably thought to. Right, that have not thought to, because it wouldn't make sense. You're not going to take someone out of Reading to bring them to Kensington to sit in a meeting and try and help them. Like you're not going to do it. But now you've got this spot that you're actually in a hub, but yet completely away from everything, just in the middle of the country up there.
And two, you're breaking, like it's no one's turf necessarily. Right. Like when you go into someone else's area, so this really helps too to break down those lines. And
and I mean, frankly, that was one of the conversations. I think Brian and I probably had it, but it was more forward in the initial idea of what he did, and we were going to do it. We had heard about it in Camino Farms, and we were like, okay, this sounds good. And we saw about the mission stuff. I was like, yeah, that's fine. And then all of a sudden they were like, well, and it's Daniel Keating Company. I was like, whoa, hold on. This is Keating's company? And they were like, yeah. And we had to think about it, because we are very conscious of where we work and how we interact, because there's a certain way that this Southeast Pennsylvania runs. Yeah. And if you don't respect that, you're going to find out real fast.
Oh, yeah.
And so, there's jobs we've taken, and there's jobs that we've checked when we took it, and there's jobs that we have not taken that I really wanted to do. And we had the in, and I was like, we can't do that job.
Yeah.
And so that was one of my early conversations internally, was to say to Mark at C. Raymond Davis, you have to explain to me why you're involved. I was like, I have to understand why a person who is very capable of doing this on the side isn't doing this, and that they're okay with us doing it. Yeah. And he sort of walked me through that, and I was like, okay. And then Ford and I and Brian talked about it and said, this makes sense, and they have the answers for why. So I'd like to go do this project. Let's go after it. And so it's been fun, though a struggle. Some of the things have really been difficult with a township that is not used to. There's not a lot of development there. Like in an ironic twist, they're not building a lot. They're not rolling in there with Toll Brothers putting in 200 houses, but they went through the same struggles as you would have if you did it.
Well, what's the history of the property is that the original owner of the homestead property bought that land to develop 400 townhouses on it. So initially, and the whole township thought my dad was maybe a front, or that this was, so there was a lot of understandable skepticism about, is this project really just for good?
Right. Sure. Are you just going to build one little thing and then 200 townhouses?
Yeah, exactly. So there was a lot of pushback, and I'm glad we fought through it. And I think it's been a really beautiful transformation of the community, at first really being against it. And now, I mean, we've been getting a lot of outreach actually as to how the immediate community can volunteer. Volunteer or employment opportunities. I got an email yesterday that was like, I am, ready for my next phase in life. I've done X, Y, and Z, and I'm really looking to do something more meaningful. So I think, and that's what else I've really been inspired by. There's so many people that are ready kind of for more than this 9-to-5 crazy chaos. So, it's...
And I think it also ties together with your idea of how divided everything is. That they're looking for... I think a lot of people are just looking for less noise in a complete... Not actually meaning noise. We're not talking about under the L in Kensington noise. I'm talking about just the chaos and the noise that we live in with what's fed to us, and just say, like, there's too many issues that need to be dealt with for that to be what slows me down. Like, I'm going to have to focus on something else. And I think you're seeing that in... For me, I live in Chester Springs, so I live like we always say I live right on the line. You cross 100, things change.
Yeah.
And I live right on that line. And Erin's certainly that way. She was one of the first in our group of friends that she said, I'm not going to work anymore. Like, I'm just going to, I'm going to raise the girls. And in that community. Now, like I said, if I move to, to Morgantown or just west, that's not uncommon. It's pretty common. But I think it all speaks to that same nature of what's going on. And I think that for that reason, I think Camino could be really interesting. The timing of it, I think, is really going to be embraced by the area and the community just because it's of the goal. And I keep going back to the food thing. The food thing was just, when they said it, I didn't know about it. And it just blew my mind. I was like, wasn't even the amounts. If you had said it was going to be like 2 cows and 20 chickens and, like 1,000 eggs, I'd have been like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? But when your dad or your mom started to talk about the numbers, I was like, the impact this could have on so many communities in that region, being able to deliver that food, let alone, when you play it out, because out here, especially like we do. Do you still buy a quarter cow or anything? You don't do that, right? Or do you do it?
We still do some, yeah.
Okay, so like we've done it. We go back and forth with whether we do it. When you see how much that is, when you started to talk about it, and that's when I want to have like a steak. You know what I mean? Like, if you donate that to like a soup kitchen or a place that's able to, the amount of nutrition that could deliver to people who would not be able to have that is almost unfathomable how impactful it could be.
Yeah, and there's just like so many possibilities. Even we've talked about. Like we'll have a full commercial kitchen up there. Is there potential to have some groups that are more focused on job training to become chefs and commercial cooks that we could use the beef and the product that we have to serve. So again, that synergy aspect we're really excited about.
Yeah, that's great. So, tentatively scheduled for May of 26?
Yes, May of 26.
Yeah.
Come hell or high water.
It's open. Hell and high water sometimes. But that's awesome. Is there plans? I mean, it feels like 4+ years in the making. Are there plans for expansion, or plans for maybe similar types of things outside of the region? Or that's probably
well, it's not for my dad, it's not off his grant. So he would love to add in some like trade school elements, potentially opening a school. There is some property around that we could be creative with, and we do probably feel that we might need more housing. Just as we were talking to our numbers, we have the capacity to sleep 96 right now. We have 4 different bunk houses, but we've had groups come that have there's this great organization, Aluna, that provides camping experiences and respite for children that have either lost a parent or sibling to, whether it be gun violence, addiction, or anything really. I think it's for anybody going through grief. And they have about 300 kids that will come to their camp. So we've already started discussing the expansion possibilities and how else we can utilize this space for more.
Awesome. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
If people want to know more, where should they go?
So our website is CaminoFarmsPA.org. And they can also email me directly, Katrina Keating at CaminoFarmsPA.org.
Okay, awesome. And if they want to know, can they find like volunteer opportunities there? I mean, you're probably still building some of that because PSA, we're going to be having a volunteer, very similar to the barbecue we had in July. We're actually going to have a volunteer specific open house February 7th up at our gathering barn to talk about opportunities for the summer and beyond. So right now we have about 8 of the 12 weeks of summer booked for groups coming up. We have groups coming up from Chester, Kensington, Camden, and we know we're going to need extra support, whether that be working as special friends with some of the youth coming, or even cleaning up in the cafeteria, or helping out around the pool or the animal barn. We'll also have zip lines, so we know we're going to need extra hands. So February 7th we'll have that, and hopefully that will be the start of a lot of more opportunities to come. Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having us, and thank you so much for Berg for all you guys have done, because wouldn't have been able to get this job done without you guys, and your crew's been amazing. And it's been really amazing to see what interest you've taken beyond just the project and into what we're actually doing. So thank you.
That seems like a good place to wrap it up. So thanks folks for joining us today. We hope you got something from this, and we hope you come back for another episode.
Thanks.